Auxonne is a French commune in the Côte d'Or department in the Burgundy region of eastern France. The inhabitants of the commune are known as Auxonnais or Auxonnaises. Auxonne is one of the sites of the defensive structures of Auburn, clearly seen from the train bridge as it enters the Auxonne SNCF train station on the Dijon-Besançon train line. It also was home to the artillery school where Napoleon received his first training. The commune has been awarded one flower by the National Council of Towns and Villages in Bloom in the competition of cities and villages in bloom. Pronunciation. Due to an exception in the French language, the name is pronounced Auxonne. The current speaking of the name comes from a habit of copyists of the Middle Ages who replaced the double S by a cross which does not change the pronunciation. This cross, equated with X in ancient Greek, was pronounced Ks in French only from the 18th century, but this modification does not change the usage. In practice, however, the pronunciation of Auxonne is debatable, the inhabitants themselves being divided between a pronunciation of Ks and SS. Local, elected officials as well as SNCF announcements retain the pronunciation Ks. This pronunciation has the merit of avoiding a homophone with the Upper Garonne commune of Auxonne. Geography. The city of Auxonne is located at the edge of Côte d'Or department along the boundary between Burgundy and Franche-Comté, some 30 km southeast of Dijon and 45 km west by southwest of Besançon. Access to the commune is by road D905 from Genlis in the northwest, which passes through the town and continues southeast to Sampons. The D24 road goes south from the town to L'Habillement-les-Auxonnes, the D110A goes southeast to Rainans, the D208 goes east to Penta, and the D20 goes northeast to Flamarens. There are very large forests along the western side of the commune, and Auxonne town has a large urban area with the rest of the commune farmland. The western border of the commune is the Saône River as it flows south to eventually join the Rhône at Lyon. The commune is at an altitude ranging between 181 meters and 211 meters, which makes it virtually immune to floods that envelop the region during major floods. Geology. Auxonne belongs to a region called the Plain of Saône. The plain, with Bressa, is the geomorphological unit of the Bressan Depression, an extensive collapsed formation dating from the Miocene extending from the Upper Rhine Plain and the Rhône Basin. The Plain of Saône is limited in the north by the Upper Saône Plateau, to the west by the Burgundian Limestone Ridge, to the east by the Plateau of the Jura, then by the Bressa, and finally to the south by the Beaujolais vineyards. The Plain of Saône drops from 250 meters altitude in the north to 175 meters in the southeast, is traversed by the river from north to south for over 150 kilometers. The city of Auxonne is specifically in the alluvial ribbon called the Val de Saône, a band a few kilometers wide that follows the river. Its immediate limit in the Auxonne area is 10 kilometers to the east, where there is a rise of the Massif de la Serre to an altitude of about 400 meters. Climate. The climate of the Val de Saône has several conflicting influences but is still a dominant continental climate. It is marked, however, by an oceanic influence that is strongly attenuated by the hills of Morvan, which acts as a barrier. There is also a meridional influence in summer which allows the Saône Valley, an extension of the Rhône Valley, to enjoy good sunshine which is also seen in late spring and early autumn, thereby lengthening the summer. Finally, there is the continental influence on the Saône Valley climate with cold winters and sometimes late frosts. Fog is common from October to March. The summers are hot enough. Rainfall is well distributed throughout the year, with summer and winter relatively less than autumn and spring. Neighboring communes and villages. History. Origins. Modern historians agree on doubting the veracity of the assertions contained in the Chronicle of Béziers in the first half of the 7th century. Concerning the term Asséna to refer to Auxonne in the first half of the 7th century. The first three authentic instruments where the name Auxonne appears date from 1172, 1173 and 1178. The first two are associated with Count Stephen II of Auxonne, and the third is in a bull of Pope Alexander III. The Act of 1173 was a donation made by the Count to the monastery of Saint Vivon de Vergy. The Pontifical Act of 1178 was a confirmation of all the possessions of the Priory of Saint Vivon, which included the town of Auxonne. Religious rites of Auxonne date back to around 870, the date of establishment of their monastery in the Pagus of Amos in the Jura of Burgundy. 6 miles from the Saône on land belonging to a Gilmar, Bishop of Clermont. The place took the name which it still has today, Saint Vivon en Amos. The monks remained in Amos for more than 20 years. The Normans from Hastings destroyed the monastery when they invaded Burgundy. Count Manasses built him a new monastery in Frankish Burgundy in the county of Beaune on the slopes of Mount Vergy. While they were in Amos, they cleared the area and installed fishermen's huts along the Saône. According to a hypothesis by some historians, these huts became the germ of the future town of Auxonne. Installed in their remote region of Vergy, far from their difficult-to-defend lands, the monks of Saint Vivon felt the need to subordinate their lands in Amos to remove the covetousness and retain their rights and properties. According to a second hypothesis, the feudal lord established a new town along Saône which took the name of Auxonne. Auxonne therefore was in the Pagus of Amos. The division of the Treaty of Verdun of 843 placed Amos in the Prise of Lothair I, and, despite the complicated divisions that followed, this county was Holy Roman Empire land and fell within the sphere of influence of the Count of Burgundy, i.e., the future Franche-Comté. The attachment to the Duchy of Burgundy in 1172, the city had grown in importance. Count Stephen I of Auxonne, the younger branch of Burgundy County and son of William, had settled there. His successor Stephen II, Count of Auxonne and son of the previous head of the younger branch of Burgundy County, was master of rich domains. Ambitious, powerful, and supported by the premier families of the country, nourished some pretensions to supplant the elder branch. He worked conspicuously. In 1197, taking advantage of unrest in Germany, Stephen III renounced loyalty to Otto I, and took the Auxonne tribute to the Duke of Burgundy, Otto III, while guaranteeing the rights of Saint Vivon de Vergy. In return, Otto III promised to help him in his fight against the Palatinate. Auxonne escaped the county movement. In 1237 the head of the county was Otto III, son and successor of Otto I, Duke of Marania. On June 15 of that year, under an exchange agreement concluded at Saint-Jean de Losne between John, Count of Châlons, his mother, and Stephen III himself, and Hugh IV, Duke of Burgundy, the town of Auxonne and all the possessions of Stephen III in the basin of the Saône were transferred to the Duke of Burgundy in exchange for the barony of Salins and 10 strategic positions of the first importance in the county. In coming under the rule of the Dukes of Burgundy, Auxonne became a bridgehead of the duchy on the eastern bank of the Saône, on Holy Roman Empire soil, and escaped the Germanic influence. The attachment of Auxonne to the Duchy of Burgundy gave it the status as of a border town between the Duchy of Burgundy and the County of Burgundy, between French and Germanic influence that would determine the fate of the town in the following centuries. Auxonne under the Dukes of Valois sheltered behind its ramparts that it continued to fortify. The fortress was a major base for launching military operations. It was from Auxonne that Otto IV in 1336 dismissed the threat of dissenting county barons entering, as he was their lawful sovereign since his marriage with Jeanne de France, heir to the county. Between 1364 and 1369 there was fighting at the castle of Philip the Bold from Auxonne against the county barons and free companies. At the beginning of the 15th century, with the civil war that ravaged France, war was constant around the walls, which forced the city to remain constantly alert. Between 1434 and 1444 there was a new threat. Bands of idle soldiers called courtiers because they took all. The people of Auxonne kept watch on the ramparts while the formidable soldiery ravaged the countryside. As if their misfortune were not enough, there were two fires 5 years apart, on the 7th of March 1419 and the 15th of September 1424, which devastated the city. It was not until 1444 that there was a period of peace that lasted until the advent of Charles the Bold in 1467. In 1468, following the Treaty of Peronne, tension revived between the King of France and the Duke of Burgundy, Charles the Bold. The town soon looked to put its defences in order. In 1471 it made a contribution to the fight against the army of the Dauphin, which was sent by Louis XI and which penetrated the duchy. The adventurous policy of the fiery Duke finally led his dynasty to ruin. On the death of the Duke on 5 January 1477, Louis XI seized the duchy without delay, with virtually no resistance. The royal army returned to Dijon on 1 February 1477. The attachment to the Kingdom of France, the special status of Auxonne lands, which were not a domain of the crown given prerogatives, did not stop Louis XI from his conquest. But the Comtois people revolted, followed by those from Auxonne. After 2 years of resistance to the invader and after the carnage of Dole at the Château of Dole on 25 May 1479, they were left without support by Mary of Burgundy. Auxonne held out for 12 days in the siege by the royal army commanded by Charles d'Amboise before opening its doors on 4 June 1477 to the French invader. The town, attached to the crown of France, would share the fate of the monarchy. The Duchy of Burgundy and the County of Burgundy were always united, but this time under the crown of France had changed masters and for another 14 years had a common destiny. For political ends, Louis XI, while he solemnly confirmed the maintenance of all the privileges of the town to ensure the loyalty of his new subjects, hastened to build a mighty fortress, the Château d'Auxonne, at Auxonne at the province's expense, which still dominates Aliote Square, to guard against any attempt of rebellion. Charles VIII challenged Louis XI as, while he was engaged to Marguerite, daughter of Mary of Burgundy, and Maximilian I of Habsburg, heiress of the Duchy of Burgundy, and after the dowry of his future wife arrived in the county, he preferred to marry Anne, heiress of Brittany, and thus took the important Duchy of Brittany from the Kingdom of France. Auxonne becomes a border town. The Treaty of Senlis, signed between Charles VIII and Maximilian, again separated the two Burgundies. Auxonne again became a French bridgehead on the imperial bank, and its walls had to protect the Kingdom of France against attempts by Habsburg to resolve by force the question of Burgundy, and the Habsburg claims on Burgundy. There were soon tensions on the Empire side. From 1494 the Italian wars were rekindled. Again the walls were consolidated and the county door was built in 1503. Auxonne repulses the Imperials on 14 January 1526. The Treaty of Madrid was signed, after the Battle of Pavia, between François I and Charles V. The King of France was forced to abandon Burgundy and the county of Auxonne, among other territories. The states of Burgundy combined on 8 June 1526 and refused to separate from the crown of France. In response, the emperor tried to conquer the county of Auxonne. In front of the walls of the city, Lannoy, commander of the imperial armies, found such strong resistance on the part of all the people he had to give up. Henry III declares the Auxonne people guilty of lèse-majesté in 1574. Charles of Lorraine, the younger brother of Henry I of Guise and Charles, Duke of Mayenne, whom history remembers simply under the name Mayenne, became Duke and Governor of Burgundy. A champion of the Catholic cause, he extended the religious wars to political wars. He worked to establish his own government and attached the neighbouring land of Lorraine under the Guise government to the Burgundian province. The death of the Duke of Anjou, brother of Henry III, in 1584 made Henry of Navarre, a Protestant, the presumptive heir to the crown, gave the Catholic League a new activity. Civil war began again. Mayenne sought to retain the strongholds of Burgundy for his county. On the 2nd of April 1585, the people of Auxonne received a letter from King Henry III recommending them to ensure the safety of their town, and especially in not receiving the Duke of Mayenne. The people of Auxonne, loyal to the king, hastened to execute orders. Jean de Saulx-Tavannes, governor of the city and the Château of Auxonne, at first took the measures imposed, then secretly strengthened the garrison of the castle, as he suspected that the inhabitants of conspiring with Mayenne to deliver it to him instead. Counseled by Joachim de Rochefort, Baron of Plouvault, the magistrates decided to seize the governor. They arrested him on Saint's Day in 1585 when it was making his devotions in the church. The Count de Charny, a close relative of John de Saulx, lieutenant general in Burgundy, approved this act of loyalty to the crown by the people of Auxonne. When the king was informed, he praised the people for their loyalty, but concessions to leaguers, which were formalized by the signing of the Treaty of Nemours on 7 July 1585, forced Henry III to equivocate. He asked the people to deliver Tavannes into the hands of Charny and named Claude de Balfremont, Baron of Sennecy, known for his Mayenne sympathies, as governor of the town and Château of Auxonne. In complete defiance and sniffing betrayal, the people of Auxonne handed Tavannes to the county of Charny, who shut him up in his castle at Pagny, refused Sennecy as governor, and continued to claim in his place the Baron of Plouvault. In January 1586, new orders from the king expressed his dissatisfaction with these repeated refusals. The situation was difficult for the people, but they received encouragement in their resistance from the future Henry IV, who was at Montauban, and sent them a letter of encouragement on 25 January 1586. Meanwhile, Tavannes had escaped from his prison at Pagny. The first use he made of his newfound freedom was an attempt to retake Auxonne by surprise. On 10 February 1586, he appeared before the walls with 200 men-at-arms. His attempt was unsuccessful. Despite orders and injunctions that the people receive Sennecy as governor, they still held to Plouvault. His patience tired. Henry III, by letters patent of 1 May 1586, declared the Auxonne people guilty of lèse-majesté and ordered action by force, so arrangements were made accordingly. The Auxonne people were obstinate in their refusal, but loyal to the crown, and were ready for a showdown. They refused to open the gates of the city to the Count de Charny, who was obliged to find housing in Tillinaire. They did consent to open the gate for President Jeannin, who came to mediate with the Squire of Plouvault to save Auxonne from ruin. Jean Delacroix, a countryman of Auxonne and private secretary to Catherine de Medici, arrived with his deputation to the king with letters of credence for Sir Charny, giving him full powers to deal with the people. The negotiations resulted in an accord reached and signed on 15 August 1586 at Tillinaire. The treaty revoked letters that declared the people of Auxonne guilty of lèse-majesté, exempted them from contribution for 9 years, and granted a gratuity of 90,000 francs to the Baron of Plouvault. This treaty was approved by letters patent of 19 August 1586, and on 25 of the same month the Baron of Sennecy was received and installed as governor of the town and Château of Auxonne. Received by the people with the greatest distrust, Sennecy showed himself as the man for the job. The Treaty of Nijmegen, the town finally lost its designation as a border town with the conquest of the county by Louis XIV, but it still remained an important place as indicated by the stationing there of the 511th Logistics Regiment. The city of Auxonne remained famous because of 2 visits that were made by a young second lieutenant in the regiment of Lafayette named Napoleon Bonaparte, who was later to make his name known across Europe. The Bonaparte district preserves the room he occupied during one of his stays. There is also a small museum in a tower of the Chateau of Auxonne, his set square, his fencing foil, and objects he offered during his stay, as well as one of his hats. Contemporary era. During the Second World War, Auxonne was liberated on 10 September 1944 by troops who landed in Provence. Heraldry administration. List of successive mayors. Mayors from 1801 to 1935. Mayors from 1935. The canton of Auxonne and its 16 communes. Auxonne is the capital of its canton, and is the commune with the highest population in the canton. Twinning. Auxonne has twinning associations with Hildesheim am Rhein since 1964. Demography. In 2010 the commune had 7,741 inhabitants. The evolution of the number of inhabitants is known from the population censuses conducted in the commune since 1793. From the 21st century, a census of communes with fewer than 10,000 inhabitants is held every 5 years. Unlike larger communes that have a sample survey every year. Population change. Sources: LDHEHESS, Cassini until 1962, INSEE database from 1968. Economy. The town has a branch of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Dijon.